live. Perfect. I'll hit the record button.
Yeah, great.
And make sure that this is set up. There we go. Matilda, today is the day. I'm so excited that you're here with me again. We did a teaser video last week sometime, and the people got to know you a little bit, but today is the day we're going to go full into what it is you do, how you help children, and in turn, how you help the families and everybody that's involved with that child truly understand what's going on. So welcome. Can you go ahead and just introduce yourself? Tell us just a little bit about yourself first.
Yes. So my name is Matilda Lerges, and I'm from Denmark. That's why the unpronounceable last name. And I'm a healer and energy intuitive, and I've been working with that for the past, I think, 5 years. And I'm working with the adults and children. And what we're going to talk about today is the part where I work with children. So what I do is I do the healing work, and I assist them in grounding their consciousness into the body, their energy into the body, and to thrive and be in more balance. So that's basically the headlines of what I do. But there's really a lot to it. And as you say, I also work with the parents and help them understand these dynamics happening in the child and in the family, and also why things are the way they are from a higher perspective. And that really helps adults, parents who are wired to understand the higher perspective.
Absolutely. I love that you're bringing that full circle, because it is so much about the whole dynamics, the family, how that child fits in the family, what message that child perhaps is trying to get across. And we're all here to learn from each other. And we often can just label a child as a troubled child or ADHD. Like, I don't like to put labels on anybody, but our limiting belief system wants to label children or adults that don't fit into the box. And I love that you're tapping into that child's highest potential, that child's highest consciousness. So it's fascinating to me what you do.
Yeah, so that is really, all the labeling is really attached to the third dimensional world, as you know, and we are used to that. So it's really a habit that we feel we need to label things. But when we bring in the higher perspective, it always comes without a label, because we have the unity consciousness there, and it can sound a bit fluffy, but actually we get some really specific advice in relation to the child, and we really get to see what it's all about when we tap into the higher perspective. For some parents, it wouldn't make sense if they're very much in the third dimension still, but for parents who are in the fourth and fifth, it really is a great relief to see that there's nothing wrong with the child, that there's nothing that they have done wrong, there's nothing that has gone wrong, but that they can still help the child and the family to thrive in a bigger way, and really relieve themselves from the pressure that there often is on being a parent. And that is not necessary at all. That's not necessary to carry that burden on your shoulder at all. You can really just apply these higher perspectives in your life, and you will feel it expand. But that is also a process for many parents.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me of that, is that there is no suffering and judgment and all of that comparison game when we get up into a higher consciousness. So for a lot of people watching this, they might not even understand what that means. And I'm not sure how much we want to go into that today. You explained it beautifully, that all suffering happens when we're judging and comparing, and that's down here, that's at this level. So let's rise up and get into a place that we're understanding us so much more.
Yeah, so there are two things in that. First of all, that's what the children come here to remind us often, is really of the higher truths. And that's also why we see these dynamics sometimes. It's really to remind the parents that there is no judgment, and they can really relax and be who they are. And the second I've already forgot. Yeah, the second I was thinking when you were speaking was that we have a lot of beliefs, especially attached to the child and the parent relationship and family structure in general. We have a lot of old beliefs, and a lot of parents are here to really break this dynamic open and change it, and really see these higher perspectives. And these are often the parents that feel that they struggle a lot with their children. They feel there must be more to it than just what they see. It can't be that so much suffering and so many difficulties. And that's often because they have agreed. That's my perspective, and no judgment is ever present here. That's really because they have agreed to come here and learn something together with a child. And what they're here to learn is unconditional love and loving themselves, really loving the child. So it's not something about a lesson in that sense. It's really about really learning to love yourself.
That's so beautiful. And if anybody can help us with unconditional love, it is our children. So that is the magic, and there's no accidents. That's why it was designed this way. So yeah, what do you want to talk about first? There's so much in what you do. Do you want to just start explaining it, or I'll just hand the floor back over to you?
Yeah, I can explain a bit like where I come from, why I'm working with this,
Yes,
because I think that the parents can look at this and say, we don't see this in a lot of places to work with children, except after I asked you if you wanted to have it to talk with me about this, then I suddenly saw it everywhere. And especially coming up for the coming years, a lot of channelers said that I heard Lee Harris and also Sarah Landon channeled something about this, that this is really a topic for now, about the children as our guides, and how some children would be struggling in the coming year because they feel like the stress of their parents. So a bit about my background is I grew up as a sensitive child myself, and I see this as really a superpower now. Back then, I don't know what I saw it as, but I could really feel all emotions of other people, and that was, in a way, I struggled, but I didn't really realize that it was mainly in my body, and later on, I really just wanted to fit in, so I lived a really, really normal life, and I got into science, and I have a PhD in biology, so I'm really also, I love to explore things. I'm very curious. And I like to investigate systems, and really all this. It's really a fun game. And then I had myself like this awakening after an accident, and came to realize that this was really a superpower, that I could really heal myself in an instant almost, and also that I had this special ability with children. Because I came wired in very much the same way as they are. So many of the children that are here now, I work with my guides, the Council of Light, and they, in relation to children, those are the ones that helps me working with the children. I have some other guides that help me with my other work, so it's really related to this. And they really, really help me to see that this is really a work that I have been working with for many lifetimes, and that is really how I help the children, by having embodied these experience in myself, to really ground this huge consciousness that it is into the body, and being at peace and being at balance, and really releasing family trauma, family patterns, and having all this, and really obtain this level of peace. And that is basically what I assist the children to do the same, but just fast while they are still children. Because what many children experience when they come into this earth is they are this beautiful, huge consciousness that they're focused in a body. And what they experience then is they come into this ocean of energy that is already here. And it's much lighter than when I was born and when you were born. So they are able to come with more of themselves to begin with. But they come into this ocean, and they come into this body that already is kind of constructed so it reacts to certain things. And when they carry these programs and beliefs in their body that are from their ancestors, they react to them as if it was their own experience, and as if they had this experience themselves. And what I experience in some children, this is not all, but some are so sensitive and connected that they really are disturbed by these family ancestral beliefs, because they feel them so clearly, and they cannot like switch them off, and they are themselves so different from that they really feel disturbed by it. And those are some of the children I help. Like if these beliefs are completely unaligned to the child's true nature, it can feel really upsetting to the child, even a small child. But that's not all children. There are also, I'm just listening to what else.
Yeah, I understood what you were doing. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there is this group of very sensitive children, but there's also, as you talked about in the beginning with the labels, these children that we give some diagnosis that are actually not sensitive, that have other ways of just having a difficult time to fit into this world, not because they're wrong, but because we see it as different and we see it as wrong, and we have a difficult time giving them the space and the support that they need to be who they are. So we want to change them a bit to become a bit normal. And also they can have something in the family or in the energy that tells them different things that they really have to overcome in a way and hold a balance in. So what I experience for many of the children, that there's a lot of noise, and it can be both from ancestral, and it can be patterns, and it can be from the energy that's currently in their environment, as these children with the labels we talked about in the beginning, they can be reacting to that. So what is right here, right now, and what do I have a difficult time keeping my balance in? And there can also be children that have not grounded their energy fully, and there can be many reasons for that. If they had a hard time just after they were born, or if there's some other reason, there can be many reasons. And so they're not really connected to the body in the way they potentially can be. So that might be that they don't feel if they're hungry, thirsty, tired, and it can also be emotional, that they don't really feel their emotions, or they can't really identify what it is that they're feeling. It just becomes like this explosion inside of them. So there can be really a lot of different ways that these children can be experiencing some challenging in grounding and embodying their energy. So that is kind of the background for this whole my way into the healing work, but also to what it is that I see in the children when I start working with them.
So great. You talked about, like, if they aren't grounded, they're not feeling all of the things properly, like I didn't even want to use that word properly. It's just not connected. They're not truly connected to their emotions and their feelings and understanding. So that sounds like something that we would be going to doctors for and psychologists and stuff for a long, long time. That does not sound like something that would be a quick fix. So when we go into energy healing, can you tell us what that looks like in your world, as far as you identifying it and then helping that child get through that and process that?
Yeah. So when a parent connect with me around their child, I connect to the child's energy field. I tune in on the child, and then I'm very clairsentient, and it's something I've studied a lot. And I make these analyses where I tap into the child, and then I feel in my body as if I were the child. So I can feel. So that's also why I can feel like this child is not connected to this and that emotion, or I can feel when I feel this child, I don't feel connected to wanting to eat or to these things. I can't feel if it's cold or warm. And that's how I know that is. And I can also, when I'm in that state, I can also feel, okay, what if the parents say this to the child, or what if they're in this situation? And I can feel how it feels from inside the child. And that is really an amazing ability, I found out, and I also studied it quite a lot. So it's really I guess a basis for a lot of what I do with the children, because when it is a child and I'm connected to the parent, we want to know that it's the right child, right? Or the parents want to know that this is their child, so I can really feel the personality of the child, and I can really explain without knowing which issues they have. And so that is the first thing I do. And what I feel, this is always related to, if I can help in terms of what my work is related to, then it is about allowing the energy, because the energy flow inside our bodies is really what can heal these things very quickly. So if we have a healthy energy flow inside our body, we can really self-heal from injuries and other things like that. And when it is related to emotions, it's very fast, especially with the small children, because they have no stories. So when it's teenagers, it's a bit different. But the small children, they have no stories. So it can just be from one day to the other that they really just release this, and then they're back into balance.
You brought up a thought in me
Yeah.
of, so we want to heal those children as quickly as possible before they have all those limiting beliefs and stories that they've told themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Is it also possible, or do you see that that child, the adult that's contacting you to help their child, that it's actually the adult that needed the healing?
So what I feel is the child can always benefit from the healing, but what I feel that sometimes there is a dynamic between the child and the parent where they are helping each other, or the child, where the parents are helping the child into balance, and then the child is helping the parent to choose to get into balance. Yeah, so that is yeah, that's a fun dynamic, but that is what we come here for, often in pairs, like, or more. We have some contracts of how we are going to help each other to really embody all that we are. So so we can have a very what the parents see as a stubborn child or loud child, and they might want me to help, and that is actually a very important point. So it's not like I'm healing the child to be behaving better. That's not at all that the focus is of the healing. It's for the child to thrive better and be in better balance. What it causes is mostly in all cases, the child becomes more aligned to themselves, have more self-esteem, more balanced, fewer tantrums, fewer conflicts, all that. But that's not the focus. The focus is to assist the child into balance and to thriving. So I've had cases where the parents still saw a lot of loud behavior after that, but that was the child's natural behavior. And what in the one case I had, it was very clear that this child was here to assist the family into more aligned behavior, allowing who they were. So that was really showing the parents, this is how I am. This is who I am. So what it helped the child was to really feel, who am I and what do I want to say? And then the child said that, and that could still feel overwhelming to a parent who did not allow herself or himself to speak up, who did not allow him or her own needs. So that could really still be an issue in the family, but the purpose was very clear, and I got to talk to them about this, was that your child is now assisting you into choosing the same for you. But it's most often that it's really, I feel this softness around these connections between parent and children, because there's so much love in them. So the parent really want all the best for the child always. And if they see something, they really also want to help. But where I often have to help the parent is to not be worried, to see the perfection, these things, to not judge themselves, because that's also what the child is here to show them, to be happy, to just be all that they are. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. And again, it's healing that whole family dynamic. But you spoke earlier about this actually healing generations. And so I love that. Can you speak more into that? Like the child came forward with a whole bunch of, energy from the past, but also that parent has a lot of beliefs that they've carried through too. So your help clearing that up, and is that done more through you listening to the message, or is it done through like energy clearing and releasing, or both?
It's mostly done through the energy healing itself. And then I help the parents to understand what it is about. So I can come up with 2 examples, recent examples that are very different. So for example, a young child who was very, very good at setting boundaries. And what I felt this was related to, so that was really not the issue they contacted me with. It was that he seemed to be very tired all the time and very low in energy. But what I then came to realize, that the whole dynamic in the family was like some grandparents or before had some troubles in relating, going into respectful, loving, compassionate relationships. And this boy was just a master of that. And he just came into the family. And when I brought it up, they were really recognizing, yeah, he's very good at that. Like that was just a clear no, not a lot of explanation, just nope, I'm not going to do that. And that can also, of course, bring sometimes some situations in the family, because they cannot, like, okay, you don't want to go to bed, and it's very clear that you're saying no now, but there's some things you have to do, to fit into the family in our lives. But that's just a fun example. But that was so clear that was really what he was here for. And then I could feel like the parents were also related to that. So the parents had done some of the work, and they come really to support him into bringing this whole new way of relating, not just for the family, but also for others. And there was another child that I recently worked with, where I could feel it was so fun. He was not susceptible to shame or blame. He could not be motivated by judgment. And that was so fun. I think that was ingenious. So I could really feel how this boy has such a huge heart, and he really wanted to do a lot of things for love, out of love, loving the people. But there had been some complaints from school, like he could not be motivated. And I could feel it was really related to him, not really, it didn't come in this shame and blame. It didn't motivate him at all. So he just didn't. And I thought that was really great in a way, because I think over the past year I realized how many things we do to avoid shame or blame, especially children. We really teach them to do certain things, to avoid certain things. And that is really, really great that some of the children comes with these wired in this way, that's not a thing for them, that's not going to work on them, and you have to find another way. And I know the parents are really great at that. They're really a team there. So that's really nice to see.
I love this perspective. It's so needed, but it is a little foreign, because again, you want to go, well, no, but kids are supposed to behave, or they're supposed to do such and such. So you really have to let go of your own judgment, or at least look at it from the observer, look at it and go, oh, that was a judgment. I just thought that was a rule.
Yeah.
But rules really are
Yeah.
judgments, right? And
Yeah.
so, now all of a sudden we have all of these children being born into, like you said, this lighter world that's saying, hey, we're here to teach you and show you where you're judging, and that feels a little uncomfortable for all of us right now, because we still all try to fit in. And like you said, avoid blame or shame or guilt. We're all working to avoid those feelings. And at the same time, me as an adult, I want to avoid that feeling, but I'm actually passing it on to the next generation without even knowing it. So it's a big learning curve at the same time as just an acceptance of what is. So just hearing your perspective here today is just very, very refreshing.
Yeah. And I also feel that I need to say that it's some parents who have chosen this as a thing that they are working on with their children. So not all parents will be comfortable going into this way and have not chosen it. But some parents have really chosen to pave the way for the new parents and the new generations to really allow these children to be motivated by love instead of judgment, because that's what it really is. And I really get you what you're saying, because that is really how we build so many things, is really to really avoid that. And the thing is that we don't trust the children to be able to be motivated by something else. And that really takes the parents who signed up for that to show us how it's done. So I work with the children. I don't know how the parents will continue this. That is yet to be revealed. So it's a process. I don't know. I don't necessarily know the future of them. I can tap a little into that, but I often just let the parents continue and walk away, and then just start implementing it, because they're really appealing to the parents to use their own connection, to use their own higher consciousness. And I think I mentioned that when we talked, we didn't record that, but like the child who didn't speak a lot. I had several children. I had several children who doesn't want to go to school, and I have several children who doesn't speak a lot, who doesn't want to speak. And this young boy, his mom was quite worried. But what I got very clear from him was, but do you think there could be another way of communicating? And what I felt when I tapped into her before was, he's here to help her expand her gifts. And I asked her, but do you work with this? And she did. She did work with energy and clairvoyance. So that was really true. So that was really fun. Like, he was really just holding back to help something else to come to life and to develop. And that didn't mean he wouldn't get to speak ever, but it just means that he didn't develop it yet, to allow something else to really unfold between them.
Yeah, I do remember you telling me that story, and that is absolutely beautiful. That, it really brings it home to me that things are happening for us, not to us, right? We could fall into that victim mode where it's like, my child doesn't speak, my child isn't the same as my other child, the other kids pick on them. We can make up all these stories and all of this stuff of what that meant, and look at it. It actually meant a beautiful gift was going to unfold for her, and therefore their relationship would then just be stronger because of it. So it's amazing.
And that's the message I really get, that they are so unique, each one of the child. And what I get at the same time is, it doesn't mean weird. It doesn't mean weird. They're unique. It doesn't mean, it just means that we have to see the uniqueness as a gift, that we should not try to label them into the same categories. It's just who they are, and that's perfect.
And Matilda, I come from the medical background, and that has been one of the hardest things for me to do, is to not look at something as a judgment. Because as a medical, and when I walk into a room, I'm looking, observing, and judging. And I never realized that I was judging as because I don't feel like I'm a judgmental person. But in a way I was, because I was judging it as right, wrong, dangerous, not dangerous, serious, not serious. So I was doing all of this automatic. But until you just said this today, I hadn't realized that. So for me, unconditional love means we don't have color. Every man, woman, and child is the same. There's no colors, there's no ages. We're just a being. But I hadn't realized that medically we label people, and that actually causes a problem. And it's interesting to me because I say that, but at the same time I knew, well, don't label somebody as depressed. I don't like those labels because I think that we fall into that depression when somebody labels it's that. But the children having struggles in their like overactive or underactive, I hadn't put two and two together with that is us labeling our children and putting expectations on them.
And that is such an important point and such a great example. All the examples you give, like health, when are you healthy and sick, and all these things are really just limiting us and also limiting our ability to move on from this. So it also puts the child sometimes in a situation where they are just adapting to the emotions in the environment about their wrongness. And that is one thing I've seen in children where we really not mean to do this, but we really, if we can stay aligned to our own power and our own peace, it's really important when, for example, a child is sick, to really use all that we can to see that they are perfect as they are. Because what I feel is passed on to the children in many cases is a feeling I'm not right. And they don't get, because it comes from the energy, they don't get, and that is also goes for adults, we don't get that it's not about us not being right, it's about parents being worried out of love. It's because they love the child that they're worried. But the child get this feeling there's something not right here, something wrong here, if it's a sensitive child. So of course not all, but I've seen this in many children, that it's like they get a little part of the picture, but they don't get that it's not them that's wrong. And if we can really stay aligned to our, and it's so important not to judge yourself if you've done this, and just say, it's a part of it. I can already feel it in my heart, like going, oh, it's okay.
I'm sorry. You're very sensitive and you're picking up on stuff. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I went back to a time that I was like, oh, I did that. Okay. Clear.
Yeah, it's the journey. It's beautiful, and it's meant to be like this. We're here in this together. Also, the children, they're not helpless at all. They're really powerful masters. So they're here also as we were as children, to really help the ascension, help ascending for the whole earth. And they're really powerful humans.
It's such a fascinating topic, and I learned a lot from you in our first time we met, and then again in our interview, and now again. I think we could go on and talk about this, but you know what parents normally are asking, and you know what fears they have, and from that point of view. So can you just kind of go back into talking about, like, again, why would a parent phone you? How would they find you? How the session you connect with the child, but then what happens next? That type of thing.
Yeah, so the parents that connect with me are often somehow involved with spirituality or healing work. Sometimes they come from other places and have seen or heard about this and seen that from another child, that it has helped them in some way. And it can be so many things. It can be a child who's being very overwhelmed by their own emotions. They can be a bit explosive, and they can have a hard time really grounding, coming back into the body and into the moment after having been upset. And it can also be children who are very worried, anxious, and really alert in a way that they just all the time worried about what's going to happen and what next. And they can maybe go into planning a lot, like trying to take control of the situation to avoid the emotions inside. Those are some of them. And it can also be that they're very tired and not wanting to play a lot. And it can also be that they have some sort of behavior that is a bit odd to the parents, that they want to know, what is this? Can you help? Is it something related to the ancestral energy that they're carrying? What else? There are many different examples. And for many of them, it's also just maybe they know that the child had a trauma early in the life, like a big trauma, and they just want to make sure that the child is balanced as good as it can be. Many contact me just before the child turns 7 or when they're 6, 7, because they know that this is a time. After that, it will take longer for the child to release. And also when they're that young, we can really work in depth with them. So that's also what I recommend, to heal a child just when they're 6, 7, because that's a time where they haven't really made up an idea about who they are yet, in the way of seeing themselves from other people's opinions or stories, or they're not attached to that yet. So they're really susceptible to the healing in a very, very, very deep way. So that's what we often do then. And when I do the session, the child is usually asleep. It can't be awake. Some of the children are so sensitive that they can feel it. I've had a few of those that's like, they're getting very active. And some are just really just so relaxed when they receive the healing. So that's also different how it works in the body, because the energies works in different ways. And then I connect with the child. So I'm not in contact with the parents while I do the healing. I do 2 sessions, so with a week in between. And then after that, we often have a phone call where I explain a bit more. But during the healing, I do the healing, and at the same time, I receive messages. And also I receive something about what kind of child is this? What is important for the parents to know about their personality? What is really their true nature, and what is related to traumas and that is going to go away now? And also, how can they assist the child? But we often talk about that in the conversation, because that is actually often related to the higher perspective. What I most often get for the parents is what they can help is by if there's something that's difficult for the child, then for the parents to allow that within themselves and to become really grounded in this within themselves, so they can carry that frequency and assist the child in that. So that is very much it, I think. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, it certainly did. So to go back, you're going to have a consult with them, talk about what it is you do. You're going to connect to the child, and then you're going to have a phone conversation about a week later that's going to be more about what is it from the higher perspective of what this child is about, and a little bit about what you found and that type of thing, right?
Yeah. So what we do first is most often they just write me and we set up the appointment. Sometimes we have a conversation before. It depends on the parents. So sometimes the parents want to talk about it a lot, and sometimes the parent just wants me to do it, and that really differs between the parents. I don't need to know anything about the child really, but for the purpose of the written text material, I want to know the name and the age, so I can put that in.
You want to know the name and the age so that you know you're connecting to the right child? Is that part of the whole?
No, actually, I know I'm connected to the right child because I connect to the parent's intention.
Got you.
So that's how I know. But when I want to write to the parents, it's nice to know the name and their age, and also to like draw in. because when I connect to them this way, they're actually ageless because I connect with the soul. So a young child, I can connect to their older aspects also. That's a really interesting part of it that I didn't know we would get into. But that's actually a part of it. It's really exciting too. So I can feel them sometimes in the future. But so it's nice to know that I'm really writing around the right time in their life and come up with some examples that really make sense to the parent.
It's so fascinating. I'm going to take you back of you talking about your childhood, because, you know, you went into, I think you said biology, and really got into systems and how things work. But obviously as a child, you were a little different than that. So there's a progression, and you commented of the word game. Like, it's kind of a game. So I feel like now this whole biology and systems is like coming right back around to the children actually are playing a game, and we as adults. Am I misunderstanding that a little bit? Or
no, it feels very much like that. And what I feel is like, as a child, I was also spiritual. So my mom was also spiritual. So it was not foreign to me at all, but I really wanted to be normal, to just fit in. And so I just really put that aside for many years and just really dived into the denser world. And on that path, I really came to explore things, and also biology. I really loved that. And I really loved the systems. But what I felt then when moving on to energy healing was that I was not leaving natural science. I was just really expanding it. I think many people didn't understand it, but some do now, because when I talk about it, I talk about I'm exploring systems still. I'm just using my body as a tool to explore instead of my eyes. I'm not measuring with my eyes or doing service with my eyes. I'm using my body to do the measurements. And that was really how I felt. So it felt like expanding, like being a scientist on Earth and like being a scientist of something bigger. That just felt like that. It really feels like that.
I love that. I knew there was more to it than that, and I wasn't quite connecting. So I love that, you know, because I think that for many people, it is a big stretch to go from a spiritual world to a left brain. I'm a scientist, I'm a psychologist, I work in pharmacy, I'm a doctor, but I absolutely love when that person can come back around and almost be childlike again, in that way of that was your true essence. You went into this field because you've seen a part of that, but now you're coming back and realizing it is all one world. We don't have to have separation.
Yeah. So it's really that exploration, and I really love it. It's just really just expanding what I did in biology and really using more of who I am. And that's also what, you know, Debbie, when the more we become who we are, the more the outer world is going to reflect that back to us. So that's really just my life in the expanded version is this. And I love emotions, and I love personality and all these things. So I really love to explore that. It's really exciting to me.
I'm just checking on Facebook if there's any messages, is why you see me looking off to the side.
It's okay.
All of a sudden I disappear. I am trying to listen to you. But I'm just checking in to make sure that if we do have somebody that has a child that we want to, but I don't think so. So just give me a moment. You can go ahead and keep talking.
Yeah, so what I also get for these children is in relation to this whole exploration and seeing is a bit of a science and a bit of a game. So what I feel in most, and this is gonna maybe sound a bit funny, but I feel that they come with each superpowers. Each one had their own superpower, and also I actually often get the word technology, inner technology, and I actually also heard that from others. And the inner technology is also related to emotions. So I often get that they come with their own technology to integrate here on Earth. and that they each have their own superpower and their own purpose here. So I mentioned a few of them, like they come into the family, but they have some really, really great ones. And that is also sometimes surprising what each of the child is, what ability each one of the child has, but it makes so much sense. And it's like because I get to meet so many children, I can really feel how they all have a piece of the puzzle, and we are a whole puzzle, and that they don't have to be good at all things, but some come and are very, very gifted within social interactions, communication, building up communities. And I can feel that even though they're very small, that this is a child that comes with strong ability and interest in community and that whole thing. And then there come children who has an ability within another field, and that's really, really exciting to investigate and to feel into and to see how that's going to play out when they get older.
So when you said they come with a unique emotion, but then that emotion is actually an ability, are you like, well, you said relationship builder, but also like, so is somebody like a peacemaker, or they're all about unconditional love? What kind of emotions are you talking about that they're bringing in as that unique superpower?
Yeah, so I don't think I said they come with one emotion, or I say they come with a superpower, as you said. They come, yeah. So that is actually so that some come with they're very expanded when I feel into their soul. But that is actually true that some comes with a lot of peace, some come with a lot of joy, some comes with a lot of like love, and you can really feel that is a really part of who they are, really showing and being love and showing love, and really be open and sharing a lot of heart energy, where you can feel some come with a lot of peace and wanting something better for the world. You can really feel that dedication, and you can feel here's a child who wants to build systems for the future. And that's how it feels from my part. And I'm really excited to see how it's going to play out, because it can play out in many different ways. So sometimes when I work with the teenagers, I have a better understanding of how it really looks.
Well, that totally makes sense, because you could have a child that can't get serious about school and all they want to do is play, 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 but they're the people that are bringing joy and laughter and fun back into our world, which we all need more of, right? And then that person that's bossy, and that child that wants to make all their own rules, and they're going to be our leaders but I mean, with every characteristic that we have, there's balance and there's imbalance. So I love that you're like talked all the time about bringing that child back into balance, but also making sure that we're seeing the child's true essence, that we're honoring who they are and who they came to this earth to be. And if trauma or limiting beliefs or past family generational belief systems are holding back that child, it's fascinating to me what you do. And it's fascinating to me how this all came about, because as I mentioned before, I didn't even know this existed. So, in the world of intuitive healing or energy work, we see people pull in little pieces, but you've definitely came as that world changer, because you are pulling in so many pieces. You couldn't get this out of a website. I look at what you put on the website. It's a beautifully designed website, but you're so much deeper than that. There's so much more to it that you could never explain in a website. Can you go back and tell me how long you've been doing this, just so I can get an essence of how many children, how many families you've helped?
Yeah. So the thing is, I also started with adults. I started with working with healing adults, and really working a lot of the clairsentient part. And then I started little by little to work with children while I was still studying. So I had also great assistance in getting used to communicating this and really getting specific on what it was that I felt within the child. So it has taken some work, really exciting work, because I've loved it every step of the way. And when did I start? I think it's 5 years that I've done. It is 5 years that I've done the healing work, and I think it's might be only 3 years that I work with children, but it's have been. It has been a big part of what I do since I really started. Maybe it's 4 years. I can't really remember.
Well, and when you say that, time doesn't mean much when we're just excited and following our path. It's like,
Yeah.
I have no idea. It feels like forever. And I think it is forever
Right.
because we just finally
Yeah.
remember. We're just
Yeah.
finally connected to what we've always been meant to do. So,
And I had I had some places along the way where I had to say yes again to really committing to this from the higher places. And there I was also like, why me? What can I bring here? And they were like, you've been working on this for so many lives. It's not just something you work with for the past 3 or 4 years. You've been really, this is what you're wired for. So just open up and allow it to come through you. Because I also felt, and that we also talked about before we started recording, it's a lot of responsibility to work with children and to work with parents to really convey the messages in the best possible way, so it's really understood in the right way, and they don't feel judged, and really not scared if the perspective is high, because some parents might not be ready for this, and that's also why I use quite a lot of time when I do the analysis, because I want to really get the right message through, and also why we often talk on the phone, not because there's anything scary to say, not at all, but to really say it in the way so they really understand how beautiful it is, and that there's no judgment at all in it, and how soft it really is.
and you do that beautifully. So, again, I never mentioned how long you've been doing this as a judgment, because you can just tell that this is lifetimes and lifetimes. And now you've just stepped into that. So how much has the community we met each other in as Sarah Landon, how much has Sarah Landon and the council helped you step into who you are?
A lot, I would say. It had really helped me to open to the higher creative dimensions. And that is also a part of this, really allowing this wisdom to flow. And that is also actually a part of the path in allowing more of the messages to come through, because through to the parents, because all the time I have got all these beautiful messages about the child's higher purpose, their mission, who they really are, and then I just really removed a lot of it. I was not ready at all to bring it to the parents. So we talked about behavior, personality, true nature, but not about the higher perspective. So that is something that has happened over the past year or half year, that I've really gone in, and that was well assisted by some from the from the masterclass community that really wanted me to share this. They really wanted to know. So I did share it. And then there was just like, that makes so much more sense to do it that way, because that is just, as I said, we really, what's outside of us is reflecting the inside. So when I expand, it started to feel as if I could say something wrong to the parents. And then I could feel the minute I opened up to just saying, okay, this is what I can do actually. As you said, what's on the website is just a small part of it. But the moment I just open up to say, this is all I can do, and I trust that the parents that come to me are the ones who want to know about the higher perspective and want to gain something from this, and from my way of speaking and my perspective on things, that these are the parents who really need to hear this. And that moment, it just shifted. So it just felt like, now I was telling you the truth. And before that, it felt like, it had started to feel like, ooh, I wasn't really telling them the whole truth.
I can totally relate to that. It's, again, when we get in judgment of what it looks like, what is our part, like you talked about the self-doubt, who am I to say that? Like, what qualifications do I have? And then, really allowing the message to come through and know that you're the vessel, and that there is a reason. I think it's an amazing gift. Not that I think it's an amazing gift. It is an amazing gift. And I just think, wow, what a privilege to be able to be that bridge between parents and children. And you can tell it lights you up. It's something that's definitely part of who you are. Just any time that we hold back from a gift, whether it be from fear or from doubt or from our own limitations of fitting in, whatever it is, whenever we hold back from that, we are not being who we were created to be. And that's not ours to do. Like, it's just not. So I
And
just
we really feel it in the body when we do that. Like, oh, I cannot be myself, and it's myself who's holding me back.
Yeah, yourself is holding you back. And then we think
Yeah.
about, and then for the work you do, not only are you feel that child being held back, maybe not the child at a young age because it's trying to be all that it is, but the parents or society or school or all of our systems are trying to hold it back. So again, for me, it feels like it's full circle. You've worked in systems, you've worked in that higher, biology and how this all works. And now you're bringing that, okay, let's get everything so we're one, because we don't need to be separated. That's what causes us all the struggles in our lives, is when we feel separated and not as one. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful work. Do you do inner child work?
So in myself, I need to understand it correct, because I'm not a native English speaker. So do you mean inner child is like my own inner child?
Yes, but I also mean in parents. Like you said, when you do energy healing, do you ever see that it's just their inner child that needs to be loved and healed?
I actually haven't seen that, Debbie. That's funny that you mentioned it. Maybe I will see it now that you mentioned it. I haven't seen that yet. It doesn't seem that I do inner child work in myself. I've done that over, and I do it when I have separate sessions with adults sometimes, but I haven't felt that connection yet between that. But there's something that comes up that relates to this. I just came to think about, it was actually in a session with an adult, so it was unrelated to her child really, but she just had a child almost a year before, and she was thinking of going back to work and her career, and but she could still stay home with the child. But what I felt come through so strongly to her was like, this was a perfect opportunity for her to be taught by her child to stay at home. So the thing she thought she was missing out on at work, she wanted to do that in order to be able to do something else. And the clear guidance was, you had the perfect opportunity to go to school for the next years, because she could stay at home. She had the arrangement to do that and be taught by your child, because your child is going to teach you exactly what it is that you need to know for your next steps. And that was actually related to the things you do as a child. Have fun, be present in the moment. So you can say it's kind of related to her inner child, awakening her own inner child, but by using her own child to help her. It might sound a bit wrong, but it was really just, she had gotten it the way around. So she really wanted to stay home with her child and not miss out, but she wanted to do it for her. Or that was what felt a bit off for her. Like, so I just want to do it for me. But that was actually felt that it was much bigger than that. What she was guided to was really to stay home with the child, but to go to school and learn to awaken her inner child again, those capacities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. For me, it does. I was getting that message as we were talking, and I knew there was some type of connection there. But, like the child, anytime we're reminded what it felt like to be that young child, that uninhibited child without all the life's experiences holding them back, to play and to ask for what you want and to just expect it to appear. Like, I mean, those are qualities that we all need to be reminded of. And in the work that I do is often that adult doesn't even know what they want. It's been so long since they thought about themselves. And so I do a lot of inner child work where we actually go back into that time of what did it feel like? Did you feel safe? Did you, so there's a lot of that, but it's the opposite end of the scale of what you're doing. So anyway.
So beautiful. Yeah, it's so important.
It's very important, and it's just amazing the messages that will come through. And when we open up the right message, our answers are there. They're always there. We just have to open and allow them. So Matilda, is there anything else you want us to know today that I haven't asked you about or we haven't got around to?
I think we get it all covered already. An hour passed by. It has been so much fun. I really enjoyed it.
It has been a lot of fun. We were talking earlier about the possibilities of doing another session where it is a live session, and not a live session as in, well, anyway, maybe I'll let you explain what it would be like, but where you would actually connect to somebody's child, somebody in this community. So just because this is part of the recording, I'm going to say anybody that watches this, please make sure that, if you know of a child, one of your own or friends, please reach out to us. And depending on how many children we get, we might have to do some type of draw or prize, or I don't know how we'll do it, but we'll figure out who, and then we'll have Matilda back on, and we'll do this in a bigger scale where we actually get to experience some of her work. Now, because we're working with children, it's always a bit more sensitive, and you've talked about that there's definitely a trust factor that has to step in. So we're just putting that out there as a possibility right now. And then how can people connect with you if they wanted to learn more about a session with you?
Yeah, so they can find my website is awakenwithmatilda.com. And there is something about the sessions I do with children, and they're also very welcome just to email me and just ask, because I can tap into that child the moment they write me, and I can write some words back if I can help them or how I can help them. And also we can set up a conversation if they want to know a bit more, maybe they have more than one child. So what you mentioned about if we do this on camera, it's like, we talked about, then I would need to know in advance which child, because then I can tap into, when it's children, I often do some extra work to really make sure that the right messages are coming through to the parents. So it's really a safe place to be, especially with the camera on. So if you feel good about having this on camera, because I know that some parents are also sensitive in relation to what they put out there. More Danish parents than American parents. There's actually, and Canadian parents, I imagine, also, but it's actually funny. There's quite a big difference between that.
Yeah, and in my mind, and I, correct me if I'm wrong, in my mind, what we would do is that person would contact, so there's 10 people that say they want it, and we decide, okay, this is the one that get it. Well, you and that parent would be in contact, just like if they were a paying person. You would do all of that information behind the scenes. So we don't need to see you connect. We don't need to, but then you would come back and you say, here's what I experienced. And you would, and so there is going to be some information, but as far as like the child being on camera, or maybe even the parent doesn't want to be on camera.
So the child doesn't have to be involved at all. I often recommend that they're not.
Yes.
So sometimes parents tell their children, but they don't have to at all. And often I recommend them not to. If they're older than maybe 16, 18, depending on the country, I would suggest that you talk to them about it before going into that. So what we could do was that I tap into and do the pre-work before, and then if the parent wants to be on, the parent can be on, and we can have the conversation as if if it was a real session, if they want to, or I can just do a summary of what I felt.
Yeah, and so that's a great, I really thank you for even being open to that, because that's a huge gift. And you've given us so much already as far as what's possible, how does this work, explaining, you know, I think we're all going to feel very safe and secure in what it is. But for me, in this community, it's always about empowering the person to be able to make the choices, right? And so if we don't know what choices there are, if we don't have hope that this is even possible, I really, really want to bring that to the audiences. If you know of a child, if you know of parents that are struggling, please make sure they get inside this community, because not only if it's Matilda, but there's many other ways that we've brought awareness that there is always hope. Our system of the way we have this limited, you know, hospitals work this way, healthcare works this way, schools work this way. If you're struggling with that system and it's not working for you, please know there's always other alternatives. There's other healing modalities. There's other ways to connect. And just so open up your hearts and your souls to really, truly know that there's amazing people out there. And I have just been so blessed to have met you, met all of the guest speakers that have come in here. And there's so many more that have contacted me and want to be part of this. And I just feel truly honored. So thank you, Matilda, for coming and joining us today. You're inside of the group. So if anybody does ask questions that you can answer, just go ahead. And if not, we'll reconnect when we have somebody that comes forward and says, yes, I nominate my child or whatever. Okay?
Thank you so much, Debbie. It has been such a great pleasure.
Yes.
So
You have a fantastic day.
and you too. Okay.